I'll read a little Geordie welcome there for you to the next episode of Lay the Draw. What I want to cover today is we're still obviously building up the sample data of the trial I'm running, where we're just laying £2 stakes, keeping it minimum, not staking too much money, and attempt not to lose too much money. Obviously the downside of that is we're not going to make too much money either. But what I want to do is cover Tuesday night's games. It's now Thursday morning, and there was nothing to go out on Wednesday because there was only a couple of Champions League games and nothing else really. So I've pulled out 3 games for this evening, 2 from the Premier League and one's a women's game, which I just saw at the bottom of the list. Basically, I'm going to go through Tuesday's results and then I'm going to show you how I've picked out games for tonight, Thursday, in preparation for the weekend's football. Because then you can do it yourself and follow along if you want, which would be a really good idea if you're interested in this strategy, or you can just keep popping back and seeing how I'm getting on, and if I'm still successful, and jump on the strategy at any time you want really. The more I tailor it. I will go over these strategies as well. I'm concentrating on trading strategy 1 at the moment, which is where I enter the trade at half time with no exit. So entering at half time when it's a draw with no exit means the risk there is if it's a draw at full time, I lose the trade and lose the liability, which is this column here. So to start with, going through the games that I picked out on Tuesday evening, there was 8 again, same as Monday evening, and again same as Monday evening, we only got on 1, and strangely it's actually the top one on the list again. That's just coincidence. I haven't sorted them or anything, just pure coincidence. In fact, the 6th of the 3rd is sorted by it's not Monday night's games. I'm looking at the times and thinking 12 o'clock on Monday. Sorry, that's I think that's Sunday. Yeah, so you had Saturday, Sunday's games. Sorry, not Monday nights. And these are Tuesday nights. I didn't do anything on Monday either. There was a couple of games, but I was actually out, so I didn't put any trading on Monday night. So yeah, sorry, I should put the days in here, shouldn't I really? I'm getting myself confused. So yeah, Sunday. So Sunday I sorted by time. I do believe this is sorted by time in league as well. Certainly league and then time, but it's just coincidental anyway that these two are at the top. So the Swansea Fulham game, it was 0 each at half time, and the thing to note here is the lay price at half time was 3.7, which is considerably higher than anything else we've seen. So I jumped on Flash Scores app, which I use on my phone, and noticed that Swansea had a player sent off just before half time, which accounted for this still being really high, because then Fulham were obviously even more odds on to win the game, so the draw was still quite high. So that did make me think, do I need to be jumping on something that high? But then I thought, well, if I'd got on before the game on all these games, which is the two other strategies really, strategy 2 and strategy 3 tell us to get onto the game before it starts, before it kicks off. The liabilities would be high there because these draw lay prices are high. You can see the lay price for the draw was only 3.85 before the game, and it only dropped to 3.7. Normally you're looking for it can be up to half, but a lot of these they're not half, but they drop considerably during the first half if there's been no goal. Anyhow, because I was only laying £2 and the liability would be £5.40, so if it did end up 0 each, that it's quite a big liability for £2. But because I was already sort of about £4 up, about 9 quid, 8 quid there, sorry. I thought I'd just do it anyway. And it's only trialing it. It might have been a different story if this had been like 20 quid, because obviously at some point when we get the strategy nailed or as close as to how we can get it to maximize the profit and times, minimize the time spent looking at this stuff. We will be scaling it to like maybe 5, then 10, then say £20, and then maybe even more than that. So you've got to bear in mind here, if you were laying £20 against the draw here, you'd have, because your times and your £2 stake by 10 to give it 20, you'd have to times this number by 10. So if you scale this up and you were putting £20 layers on each of these trades, that would be £54 compared to something like here where you've only got £34 liability. Now then, it's probably a different question. Are you happy losing £54 compared to £5.40? You wouldn't be as happy. I wouldn't be as happy. So that's the answer to that. So as it transpired, we didn't have to wait long. Fulham scored within a minute of kickoff. Really, they scored in the 46th minute, which was within a minute of the second half starting, and they won 5-1. So that's why the draw layer was still so high, because Swansea were down at 10 men, so Fulham were expected to score, even more than they were expected to score before the game started, really. Even though there was less time left. So during the second half, I think they quickly added a second soon after, and after that point, when I looked at the Betfair screen for cash out, it was actually at £1.85 for the majority of the second half until the final whistle, when I actually got the £1.96, which again is the £2 stake minus Betfair's 2% commission, which is obviously where Betfair make their money. They get 2% on every match trade, if you like. And hence why they're not bothered about gubbing accounts, or not as bothered as bookies, and also why you can jump on more obscure markets like women's football. So moving on to the other 7 games then, you can see for these 5 here, if I just highlight those cells there, you can see that was a pretty bad 5 minutes. When I say bad, not bad as in we're losing money or anything, but bad as in opportunity, because it meant there was a goal in these 5 games in those 5 minutes between the 26th minute and the 30th minute. Every one of these games had a goal, so they then become more or less non-candidates. I don't know if an equaliser had gone in before half time. I mean, a couple of the games that ended up they were 2-0 at half time, but once there's a goal in those, they're no longer candidates, unless maybe they'd been equalised and I went in the half-time ones each, and I have to decide whether I want to bet on draws at half-time as well as nils. I probably would, like if Bournemouth had got one back in the first half, then had gone in at half-time 1-1 after Bournemouth had got the opener, I would have laid the bet there, I think, and continue to see how it got on. As it happens, I would have lost because it stayed at 1-1, but obviously that's all ifs and buts because it didn't happen. Plus Bournemouth scored in the second half, so they might have got a second in the second half if they'd scored a first in the first half, for example. But anyway, Portsmouth scored in the 5th minute in that game, so we didn't get on that one. It was 2-0 at half time, and we nearly got on that one. We're a few minutes away from getting on that one, but as it happens, Morecambe scored in the first half in that one and went into half time 1-0, so we didn't get on that one either. So you can see the summary is it's quality over quantity is what I'm emphasising at this point. We've only got on 2 out of 16 games over the 2 previous trading days. I'm not averse to quality over quantity. A lot of people, quality over quantity. A lot of traders swear by it. Make sure you're trading on the right games rather than looking for opportunities to trade on the wrong games and losing money. But just applying to the strategies, if I look at this strategy here, which is the one we're doing, strategy 1, we've managed to get on 5 trades out of the 22 games, and we've won all 5. If we'd gotten on these 22, if we were using strategy 2, we would have got on 22 trades, would we? I'm just trying to think, what's the strategy? Enter pre-game, yeah. So because strategy 2 and 3 are both entering pre-game, we'd get this list of games and we'd be on all 22. We'd trade on all 22. We would have won 20 out of 22 there. You can see the 2 we didn't win because they ended in draws, so obviously we'll lose those. So we would have lost whatever the liability was on those 2, but I do believe you only need sort of 2 out of 3 trades to be winners to actually make a profit, especially if the winners are run till the end of the game. It might be slightly different if you're doing strategy 3 because you're exiting the first goal, and if the say for example the underdog Peterborough in this example scored early on, which they did reasonably early, it wasn't early, but it was the 30th minute, then if you exited on strategy 3 after the first goal, say once the market settled down, you exited, you'd probably potentially still make a small loss, because Bournemouth would still be expected to come back into that game, which they actually did. They didn't come back and win, but they came back into it. But then if you look at trading strategy 3, the issue here we have is we would have won all 22 out of 22, and that's simply because the strategy there is entering pre-game and exiting after the first goal. So the only way you could lose strategy 3 is a 0-0 draw. So that's something we need to look at as well. The problem with strategy 3 again is where we would have won the Bournemouth and Bolton games. We would need to have a look to see what the profit would have been. I can't go back and look at that at the moment because I don't know what the prices were when the first goals went in and the market settled down after a minute or two. That's something I will be picking up though, because that might be an appealing option actually. Or even enter at half time, which isn't even on there. Enter at half time like we're doing now and exit after the first goal. You will probably get some losses on, even though we've said we've won 22 out of 22 trades, we would be cashing out for a loss in a couple of these where the underdog scored first, potentially, depending whether the underdog scored early or late. And that's something I need to work on, the numbers around these, because the only numbers we've got monetary wise, when I say numbers, the only money we have is on strategy 1, which is this money here and the money in the spreadsheet. I do need to try and start applying 2 and 3, because if we could get on these 3s and we'll probably end up with more profit even just if I looked at it, because even if we'd lost a little bit on any of the underdogs scoring first, we would have made that up on more on where the actual favourites score first, and there hasn't been any 0-0. Obviously if there was a 0-0 then we would lose the whole of our liability if we're exiting on strategy 2 at the end of the game, and even strategy 3, because on strategy 3 that's where you lose on the 0-0, because there's no first goal basically. So if you've got any questions about what we've covered there, drop them in the comments and I'll try and answer them best I can. So just moving on to the next bit then is picking up these games for this evening. So you can see we've only got 3 games for tonight. We might not get on any of these because to be honest, if that women's game, I don't know anything about women's football. I think I might have watched the England team play once from memory. But looking at the odds, if West Ham women's team finishes 0-0 at half time, I will be very, very, very surprised based on those odds. I mean, it's 92 for the draw before the game's even started, so I just thought I'd put that in there. Just it's one of the games for the day, so I put it in. I'm still leaving out obscure ones just because I don't know the teams, so typically you probably don't know the teams. But if I go to the Betfair screen to see how I selected these 3 games, I'll show you that here. So when you go on the exchange, you click on football and then you click on today over here, and it basically just lists up today's games, which you can see there. Now we just simply omit anything that's cup games like the Europa League or Champions League or FA Cup. I know you always get favourites in FA Cups, but it's just too risky at the minute. I'm just omitting them all together. I mean, it's the games like the knockouts, especially the second leg. Some teams only need a draw, so why would you? If some teams go out part of the bus looking for a draw, why would you even consider laying the draw and risking losing money? It's not worth it. Get on to their games, there's plenty of them. So looking at the Premier League then, we've got Wolves Watford. Wolves are 1.93 and both teams are well, Wolves are playing to actually get into like Europe spots. They're doing quite well at the moment. They've moved up the table in recent weeks. They're getting up to Europe. I'm just going to go through a bit of form here, just give some background. Again, you don't need this, you just need to look at the stats in here, but I'm just trying to sort of also justify why we're doing this strategy. There's no point doing this strategy just on the form, on the numbers, because then you don't know what's behind it. So if we can try and justify it, then that's fine. So, and Watford are in the relegation zone, so they probably need to try and do something sooner rather than later, because if they don't, they're going down. So, you know, you would expect a goal there at least from Wolves, because they're obviously favourites. That's where we get the, so we take that 1.93, we'll put that in the spreadsheet. We take 3.6, we'll put that in. These prices can change slightly pre-game because we've still got about 7 hours before kickoff. But they're not going to change to such an extent that Wolves are going to go over 2. I mean, maybe as if they're 1.98 or 1.99, I might have a look at it about an hour before kickoff, especially after the team lineups are announced. You can get them on like the Flash Scores app on your phone to see if anything's changed, and you can also use this Betfair Exchange on your phone on a thing, or just come on a browser, or just come back about an hour before kickoff when the team lineups are announced. I mean, for Wolves in this instance to go over 2, I think they'd probably have to have half the team out injured or something like that. Something dramatic would have to change for them to go over 2. So anyway, that one goes on the spreadsheet because it hits the 1 point, it hits under 2 for a favourite. Southampton, Newcastle, according to the odds here, Newcastle are 4, Southampton are 2.04, so Southampton are definitely favourites, but they're not under 2, so I'm not putting them on. They're not favourite enough. Although, saying that, I do expect there to be a goal in that game, just based on the way that both the teams have been playing recently. They've both been in good form, actually. But, you know, it could end up a draw, but that's why we would not put it on the list, because it's more likely to be a draw than that top game, even though Southampton are still favourites. And Southampton, you know, based on the odds, should go on and win the game. But it doesn't go on because they're not favourite enough. Norwich Chelsea is a different matter altogether. Norwich are 11.5, Chelsea 1.38, so that goes on the list along with the 1.38 goes in the spreadsheet, as does the 5.4, which is quite a high lay price for a draw. So obviously the favourite result of the game there is the Chelsea win, with the draw next and then the Norwich win. Leeds Aston Villa, this is the most evenly matched of the 4 Premier League games tonight. Leeds are 2.84, Villa are 2.66. And if you asked us, I would still say, yeah, I would totally expect a goal to be scored in that game. But because it's so even, you never know, they might cancel each other out. And because our exit strategy at the moment is getting out at the end of the game and not going out before, albeit there will be a goal in the game, but it's probably out of these 4 games, and once we see the results, I probably have to eat my words, but out of these 4 games, that one is most likely to finish in a draw. In, you know, just looking at the results, if you look at the odds there, it looks like for some reason the Wolves-Watford game is more likely to finish in a draw. But I just think because these teams are more evenly matched. I mean, Villa at the moment on form are the better team, but they're playing away from home. So that's, to me, just look, if you sort of covered up the right hand side numbers and just look at these 4 games, and somebody said pick out a draw, I'd go Leeds Villa, then I'd say Southampton Newcastle, then I'd say Wolves Watford, and then I would say Norwich Chelsea. And so that's the way you work it, really. So we've got 2 out of those 4 going in the spreadsheet, and if we move down, you can see I picked this one as well, which is the women's game. Now, you can see West Ham at 19.5 to 19.5 to win. So basically, there's no money on them at all to win. From a bookies point of view, the draw's 8.8 and Chelsea are 1.2. So again, we'll put these 2 numbers in the spreadsheet and the match, and we can come in and trade on that. So all I do now is once they're in the spreadsheet, I just look for the times of the games, and I just then sort of pick them up at half time. If they're still 0-0, we come into Betfair and put a trade on. I will do a video on that, a future video, probably the next one or the one after. One thing I want to mention on this screen now is you can see this game down here, Kazakhstan Premier League. That's what I was talking about gubbing. If you start doing bets on stuff like this and match betting, you're probably going to get gubbed by the bookies. Whereas with Betfair Exchange, it's just the one platform and one screen, and because Betfair Exchange made that money from the commission, they're not looking at your sort of the value you're taking out of the market or anything like that, or your edge you're trying to get over the bookies or anything like that. They're getting a 2% regardless of whether you win or lose. So you're not going to be gubbed, which allows you to get in on games like this. The only thing you have to be careful of with lower profile games on the trading exchange is that there's enough liquidity in the market. So you can see there's only £9,150 being matched on this game, but that's actually quite high based on the profile of the game, but that's because it's actually in play, and you've obviously got gamblers who are betting on it in play. Whereas even this women's game it's only got 984 at the moment, but you can see the Premier League games, the higher profile games, have got so much more liquidity in them, and that's the amounts that have been matched on each of these games so far. So it's just to be aware of. But what you can do here is, if one of these was a clear favourite, which are not, you could come in here. So you can see this is 23 minutes gone. In about 20-25 minutes time, that's going to be half time. And you can just come in, and if that's nils each, lay the draw. And again, pro traders might cringe at that and say, well, no, you need to be doing your due diligence and research and making sure it's still a candidate to lay the draw at half time. But I want to try and keep the strategies as simple as possible, but I also want to make sure that I'm not spending hours and hours and hours and hours to place 5 trades over a period of a week, for example. I'd much and get those 100% correct. I'd much prefer to put on, say, the 22 that we've got so far and win 80 or 85% of those, as long as I was still profiting. Obviously, if the profit wasn't there, then I would need to reconsider that. But I'm putting all the time and effort into iron out a strategy that I want to use going forward without too much further work. And the only work I want to do after that is, if the strategy isn't working right, then go and readapt it and see where it is going wrong. As it happens, there isn't a favourite in this one. They're 2.72 to win the game. They're 3.85, so we wouldn't get on that one anyway. But it's just a thought. If it doesn't have to be high-profile games with the exchange, whereas with bookies, you're always conscious about losing your accounts, and with match betting, the biggest risk, and it's not 100%. I was going to say it's not in your domain to make sure it doesn't happen where you get gubbed, but it is to some degree. But nobody knows the full rhyme or reason why bookies would gub your account. I mean, I've been doing match betting for 3 months now, and I've lost sort of 3 or 4 high-profile bookies, and I've lost 13 in total. And a couple of them, like William Hill, I didn't even get the sort of. I'd done the sign-up off on, and the gubbed us. Well, they had no idea of what kind of betting pattern I was going to have, or what kind of profile I had as a gambler. Other than that, they probably thought, hello, he's taking value bets that look like maybe matched betting. So you can bet your bottom dollar that the bookies are all over, like the odds trackers that Profit Accumulator and Odds Monkey produce, and they'll probably look out for those high profile sort of closer matched games or bets, if you like. Anyway, I digress on to match betting. I've got other videos out on match betting which you can have a look at if you want. So going back to the spreadsheet, we've got the column where, if you remember, we want to look to see how many of the last 5 games a team has scored in. So what I use for that is a website called Soccer Stats. So I'll just give you a quick look at this. So you come into Soccer Stats, you don't need to sign up or anything, but you get a few more stats available to you if you do sign up. It's free to sign up. There's no charge. But it's a really good site. It is full of little finicky adverts, but they're not too intrusive. Just don't, well, I say don't click on these. It's not very supportive of the site if you're not clicking on any, but I don't tend to click on any. But you can see the Norwich City Chelsea game here, so you just click on stats for each of the games that you've selected in your candidate list, and here you can see the last games for each team. So this is Norwich's last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and this is Chelsea's last 8 games. And all I do is I just scan down Chelsea's last 5 games and make sure they haven't been involved in any 0-0 draws. So even though it might not be Chelsea scoring in every game, even though yeah they have in the last 5 games they've scored, even though it might not be Chelsea scoring in the last 5 games, I just want to make sure that there's been at least 1 goal in Chelsea's last 5 games. And basically that's just trying to cover us a little bit more. We've obviously got this insurance that there's a big favourite for the match, which in this case is Chelsea. And the second insurance is to say that Chelsea haven't been involved in a 0-0 draw in the last 5 games. You could even extend that to 8 because this conveniently shows the last 8 games, but that might knock you a few more out. But you can see in any case, the only Chelsea haven't been involved in a 0-0 in the last 8 games, nor have Norwich, so that's all looking good. The only time Chelsea haven't scored was when they were playing away to Manchester City. And like I say, the reason we do that is just to sort of as a second insurance. It's normally 5 to be honest, because 0-0 isn't a very popular score, especially when it's a sort of team like Chelsea. They won't be involved in many 0-0s at all during the season. So I just do that, so you can see that's 5 out of 5. So I would go back to the spreadsheet and I would put in against Norwich Chelsea in there, I'd put a 5. And that's about concluding it for now. Sorry, if I just continue that point a second, you can see the lowest I had there was a 3, was Ipswich, but we didn't get on that game as a trade because Ipswich were already leading by 2-0. I always said I would only do 5, but I've only had to do 5 so far. So where we've got the green trade lines, you can see they were all 5s. I am going to make a decision. I'll probably definitely do 4s, but then I need to have a little bit to think about 3, whether I would do that or not. So obviously that's quite a big risk in that Ipswich had been involved. They'd had 2 0-0 draws in the last 5 games. But you know, they were 2-0 up. I might have been thinking something different if it had been 0-0 at half time again. But it didn't come to that, so we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So I'll leave it at that for this video. I'm off to get the stats for the other 2 games to fill in these 2 cells, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video when we can go through these results. And I'll put the video out tomorrow, Friday, and we'll try and get all the weekend games up, like Friday, Saturday and Sunday, or at least, you know, the Friday night games. I haven't even looked at the fixtures to see if there's anything going for tomorrow night, and we'll cover what happened in these 3 games as well. So yeah, thumbs up if you like the video. Please do follow along and we'll see if we can nail some kind of strategy. In the next video as well, I will go over my secret strategy 4, which might open a few talking points, but I do believe it's a known strategy out there that it's still lay the draw, but it's just it's a nice little different take on it, which it's not a different take on it, it's just a different entry point, which might be contentious, but you know, we'll see, we'll discuss it and we'll see what people have to say about it, is all I can say. The only problem with having all these strategies, I think at the end of the day I will have to nail it down to 1. I don't really want to apply a different strategy depending on the fixture, which I know is a lot of the case in like horse racing. You fit your strategies around the kind of race or the kind of runners in the race or different variables, and you adapt your you apply a different known strategy that you've learned against a horse race. You might apply strategy 1 against the first horse race and against the second horse race. That strategy 1 might look as though it wouldn't work, so you apply a different strategy. I don't want to do that with this. I just want to try and keep it as simple as possible, especially as we're doing like beginners. But anyway, pop back for the next one, and I'll see you then. Bye.